What's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel where I help black teens better understand and embrace their natural curly hair while looking more attractive in the process. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a step-by-step guide on how to escape the awkward stage. But before we do that, I'm going to give you a very loose definition of what the awkward stage is so we can develop our strategy around it. The awkward hair stage is the phase in your hair journey in which your hair is past the point of achieving a fro, but still too short to achieve styles like the man bun, box braids, or pretty much any style which flexes, look how long my hair is. I noticed that a lot of videos give very general, overused advice like be patient, but they rarely address the real question. As a guy, how do I look presentable and attractive when my hair still looks short? Today, I'm going to be answering this question, giving you a month-by-month guide on how to survive your first year of your natural hair journey. The timestamps will be down below, so without further ado, let's get right into it. The first 4 months of your hair journey are arguably the easiest, but also the longest. You're going to be overwhelmed with excitement, doing length checks every time you see a mirror. Since your afro is just starting to take shape, there's relatively little to do in maintenance, but there's still some points that I need to cover. Number 1, make sure you get an optimal haircut. This should go without saying, but you need to be thinking end game here, meaning don't go getting a mohawk when you plan on getting cornrows or box braids in the future. I'm not here to judge, but you will get roasted. I advise that you get everything trimmed to the same length, but if you have an undercut like me, a drop fade, high fade, or low fade are perfect alternatives. I don't recommend that you get a taper because the flicking motion that the barber uses to blend the style with the rest of your hair could result in one section of your curls being much shorter than the rest. Take King Brill, for example. One of his biggest regrets in his hair journey was getting a taper for an event that he was attending during his college years. As a result, the hair on the back of his neck is way shorter than the rest of his head. But whatever style you get, just stay consistent. This is where I messed up. In my first month, I got a taper, but around 4 months in, I switched to a drop fade, which doesn't sound like a very big change, but it can be very noticeable if there's a large time gap in between, because now the hair on the back of my head is just a wee bit shorter than the hair that's in the front. And trust me, that could be noticeable when you start to get braids, cornrows, or pretty much any other style that flexes, look how long my hair is. Heading straight into number 2, get a durag and a bonnet. You need both. I could dive into all of the benefits of wearing a durag or a bonnet, but I actually go into greater depth in one of my previous videos, which you can find right here. So if you haven't watched that video, I strongly suggest that you go and check it out after you finish this one. Only after though, I need that watch time. Basically, the material of the bonnet prevents your hair from losing moisture throughout the night from your cotton pillowcase. But if you're afraid that you might look feminine wearing a bonnet, don't worry, I got you. I offer masculine bonnets so other guys can protect their hair and their pride at the same time. Our simple design and dominant colors create a powerful presence, never before seen by the natural hair community. So if that sounds interesting, check out our collection. It'll be one of the first links in the description. But why do you need both a bonnet and a durag? Well, actually, we're going to use the durag in a very clever way later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. But before we head into the next step, make sure that you hit that like button if you haven't already. Number 3, establish a simple wash day routine. Shampoo, conditioner, deep conditioner. That's all you need to focus on right now. We're focusing on building the habits that we're gonna need later on. Trust me, I know. It's tempting to get the curl cream and the eco styler gel, but trust me, it's just not worth it. It's a sad truth, but your hair just simply isn't long enough to achieve those styles like those who have been growing out their hair for years. But don't worry, in months 5 to 8, we're going to be switching up our strategy to allow for more freedom. Now, I promise this is the only time I'm going to say this in this entire video, because I know you've heard this time and time and time again. But it's really important to stay patient during months 1 to 4. We really want to focus on the health of our hair before we go into the awkward stage. One final thing before we head past the point of no return, and I say this with love. Do not, under any circumstance, I repeat, do not ask your barber for a trim. Come here. Let me talk to you one-on-one for a second. The only purpose that your barber serves for you right now is to keep your fade looking clean and your hairline looking sharp. There's nothing else for him to do. Other than those two things, do not mouth the word trim. Don't even think about the word trim. This is where I messed up. I think around the 5th month in my hair journey, I asked my barber for a trim, and I lost at least an inch of hair growth, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you put this in perspective, your hair grows at about half an inch every month. So losing a whole inch is losing 60 days worth of progress, 60 days of waiting. So please learn from my mistake and don't ask your barber for a trim. If you're going to get one, go to a salon. With that, let's move on to months 5 to 9. Like I said earlier, your hair grows at about half an inch per month. So around month 6, you're starting to creep up on 3 inches of hair growth. So yeah, your hair's getting longer. See, I knew you could do it, my guy. So I know at this point you're excited. You're like, yeah, I could finally get 2-strand twists. I could get box braids. Well, about that. This is actually the point where my advice starts to take a turn from everyone else's. Remember, our strategy is to look our best until we can start putting our hair away into man buns and puffs and other low manipulation styles. Emphasis on best. Sure, you can go and get 2-strand twists, you can get box braids, that's fine. But they're not gonna look the way you want them to, or at least the way you expect them to. Think about it for a second. In the months prior to this, you've probably been conducting all the research that you can, watching every single curly hair routine that there is to offer, and subscribing to all the natural hair channels, Kid Sheldy, King Brill, Joanne Gaines. Am I close here? And in doing so, you've seen all the wash and goes and twist out tutorials that the internet has to offer. But these YouTubers have been growing out their hair for years. So we are going to take a completely different approach that I don't think anyone has ever tried or at least explained before. Avoid length intensive hairstyles. By length intensive, I mean any hairstyle that's meant to show off hang time. This means wash and goes, box braids, 2-strand twists, stuff like that. But how does this help us? How does this make us different? Well, think about it. As guys, we don't really have the luxury that women have of being able to put in hair extensions without getting judged for it. Which brings me to my next alternative point. Focus on flat protective hairstyles. By this we mean cornrows or braids or plaits, anything that is braided close to the scalp. But why are we going to do this? Well, we're actually doing this for 2 reasons. Number 1, it takes the focus away from the length of your hair and puts it onto the style of your hair. I mean, it's kind of ingenious if you think about it. It's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. You don't get cornrows to watch your braids flow into the wind. You get them for the designs. Crazy designs that can't be achieved with box braids. So go all out or keep it simple. The choice is up to you. But either way, you're gonna look like a whole boss and you won't need shoulder length hair to do it. The second reason brings us back to our old faithful Durag. See, I told you it was gonna come back. For the next few months, you're gonna be alternating braid hairstyles, meaning at the beginning of the month or whatever time you choose, you're gonna get braids and you're gonna keep those braids in, you're gonna keep that style in for about 4 weeks. Then after those 4 weeks, you're gonna take your style out, let your hair breathe for a little while, you don't wanna stress it out. And then you're gonna do it all over again. You see, when your hair is in a protective style, the tension applied to your scalp makes your hair grow faster, while also limiting the amount of breakage due to the low manipulation throughout the month. But you're still gonna wanna keep up with your routine, but you're also gonna implement oiling your scalp. This is gonna keep it from getting dry and flaky and just overall uncomfortable. The reason we need the Durag, however, is when your hair is in a protective style for a very long time, the new hair growth that you get throughout the month is going to be very noticeable and it's going to interfere with that design that you got. Eventually, your braids aren't going to look as fresh or as neat as they used to. So we're going to use the Durag not necessarily to hide that new growth, but we're going to use it for style in combination with wearing it when we go to sleep. It's really a simple fix that people with waves use all the time. They're not always showing off their waves, Sometimes they just wear the Durag for style, and that's the same thing that you can do. So if anyone asks, just say it's for style. Now, obviously, you could just keep your hair in a fro, and it wouldn't look bad by any means. But from my experience, Keeping your hair in the fro requires a lot of maintenance, making sure that it has the right shape, perfect volume, and that every strand is moisturized. It's really just an unnecessary pain if you think about it. But I'm just giving you the blueprint that you can expand and build upon with your own tips and methods. With month 9 in the books, we head into months 10 to 12. I get it. It's been a long and tiring year, but you're almost through. You're almost to your first year of hair growth. This is your experimenting time. At this point, you have a little bit of length that you get to work with, but I'm still gonna go over a few points that you can use to manage your hair. You've probably realized that you can't just wash your hair the way you used to. You have to detangle now, and I mean really detangle. Now is the time to start taking advantage of working in sections. You're probably gonna need some hair ties, a wide tooth comb, stuff like that. But I want you to remember this phrase: the smaller the sections, the easier the process. Do not, please, man, do not try to save time by working in bigger sections. You're only gonna frustrate yourself, especially if you have a very tight curl pattern. Take your time and don't rush. Trust me, man, it's not worth it. You're just gonna be ripping out hair strands unnecessarily. If you choose to keep your hair in a fro, make sure that you section it off into 4 or more puffs when you go to sleep. I find that this makes it so much easier in the morning because usually you get up, your hair is so flat that it just looks like a bowling ball. Putting it into 4 puffs makes it so much easier because instead of picking out this large mass of hair every morning, you can focus on each tiny puff at a time. So congratulations, man, you did it. You made it to your 1-year hair anniversary and you successfully prevented yourself from looking like a hot mess. But before you go, let's do a very short recap to reinforce what you've learned. In the first 4 months, we focused on the health of our hair and developing proper practices and habits, getting an optimal haircut, wearing a bonnet when we go to sleep, and establishing a simple wash day routine. In months 5 to 9, we started testing with protective styles, focusing on flat, intensive hairstyles like cornrows, plaits, and braids. This is also where we started to take advantage of the Durag, not only using it to keep our styles looking fresh, but also to hide unsightly hair growth. Lastly, in the final months, we gave ourselves some room to experiment, learning the proper approach to detangling and a different way to sleep with our hair overnight. If you found any value in this video, please leave a like. It really helps the algorithm bring my videos to the right people. Next time, I'm going to be going over 4 hair growth secrets that your girlfriend has been hiding from you. So if you don't want to miss that video, make sure that you hit that subscribe or follow button. If you really liked this video, you might actually like this one. So I advise you check it out. That's all for me, and I'll see you next time.